Hello, my crafting friends. I have some really fun and budget-friendly Dollar Tree spring and Easter DIY makeovers, so come craft with me. My name is Sarah, and welcome to my channel, Primrose Lane Prims. If you haven't done so already, I hope you'll consider hitting that subscribe button and crafting again with me in the future. And now, let's jump right into these Dollar Tree spring DIYs. For this first DIY, I'm going to be using a pack of these Dollar Tree little bunny treat bags. These come in a pack of 4, and as you can see, they're made of canvas. They're a little thin. You can see, open them up, it's kind of see through a little bit, but we're going to take them, we're going to tea stain, actually coffee stain these. We're going to make some little primitive bunny shelf sitters. So I'm going to take just some hot water and my instant coffee, and I'm going to take all of my little treat bags and I'm just going to completely submerge and soak them down into this coffee mixture and let them sit for a little bit and kind of soak in that color. So after they've sat in there about 10 minutes or so, I'm just going to wring these out and pull them out. And you can already see with them still wet. They are a darker color, but you'll really see more of the magic after they dry a little bit. And the magic of the camera, here they are, they're dry. So this is what they look like. And I hope the camera doesn't, I know, do them quite justice to see all the little variations in color from the coffee staining. But I want to stuff these. And now if you've seen me before, you know I usually like to use the plastic shopping bags to stuff. But since these, like I said, are really thin, you can kind of see through them enough to see the plastic shopping bags or the coloration of the different colored shopping bags. Like, for example, the dark gray ones from Walmart, I don't want that showing through. So I'm going to use my polyfill stuffing instead this time. It doesn't really take a whole lot. I'm just going to stuff these up enough to right above the face so that I can cinch the tops closed and the face is still nice and smooth. And now these little treat bags come with these little twine ties with them, and I'm going to use these ties to tie them off at the top. So as you can guess, this top part here is going to be our little bunny ears. So I'm just going to cinch these together real tight, make sure that face is not crumpled up, and then just tie my twine in a knot to cinch it closed really good. Now you can see at the ears here, I wasn't a big fan of how they look. They kind of look more like a mermaid tail than bunny ears. You see what I'm saying here when I flatten it out? See, it looks kind of like a mermaid tail or a little fish tail. I wanted to make these a little more defined. So I'm just going to take my scissors and first I'm going to cut this tag that's right up here on the top off because it was kind of sticking out. Cut that off. Put my two sides together here, give it a little snip right in the center, and then just kind of rip it so that the two ears are a little more defined. The fabric's a little more rugged right there in the center, a little frayed. Just give these ears a little more definition, make them go a little deeper, a little bit more like bunny ears and less like a mermaid tail. I'm going to trim off these twine tails here. We aren't going to need those. Those are going to be hidden, so I just want to trim those down. So next I'm going to go in with some fabric or some ribbon. I'm using just some black and cream gingham here, and I'm going to tie this around that twine. Just tie it in a knot here. It's going to hide that twine underneath there. And you can use fabric, you can use ribbon. I've used ribbon in the past, really whatever color, whatever suits you, floats your boat. These are really, really customizable. You know, I found this blue and cream little gingham. It's not homespun, it's not double-sided, but I was really kind of loving this country blue of this fabric, and I thought I want to put these on there. I think this will look really cute with these little bunnies. This country blue kind of reminds me, if you remember the 90s and all the geese, and that country blue was so popular. That's what this color is really reminding me of, and it's really just giving me some nice nostalgic kind of feels and nice little vintage look, I think, to these. You can tell me, what do you think? Do you love that country blue as much as I kind of do? I'm really, really liking it. So I'm just going to twist that around, make sure that backside is hidden there. But look, there's the black and cream and there's the blue, and I think I adore it. But I'm going to do, I think, 2 in each color since I made all 4 of these. Now I'm going to take some Spanish moss and some hot glue, and I'm just going to add a little bit of Spanish moss right underneath the tails of my ribbon, right around the top of my bunny. Not a whole lot, just a little bit, all the way around that top, and then pull my fabric back down over top that Spanish moss. Look how cute. Okay, so I want to add some buttons to the center of my fabric here. And I'm going to take my little jar of buttons from the Dollar Tree, guys. I've had this jar for over probably a year or two. I've used it for so many projects and they just seem to last forever. So I'm just going to pick out 4 and hot glue them right in the center of my little bow here. You guys, if you're enjoying this video so far, I hope you'll drop down and hit that like button. And if you haven't done so already, I hope you'll consider hitting that subscribe button and crafting again with me in the future. I'd love to have you join me again. And also, YouTube has a new feature called Hype. It's a completely free way for you to just show your support of creators and their videos. It really does help my channel, and I would really appreciate it. So here are our little bunny shelf sitters. I think these are so stinking adorable, so easy, so cute, and so budget friendly. This next DIY, I'm going to be using some more of these Dollar Tree treat bags. These are the carrot ones. These are a little bigger and they come to 2 in a pack. And these are just adorable, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do the coffee staining on these just the same as I did with the bunny ones. The coffee stain, I let them sit a little longer than I did with the bunnies because this orange is a little darker and at the top it just seemed to not take the coffee stain quite as well as the bunnies did. So I let them sit in a little longer before I pulled them out, probably about 15 minutes or so. And where you really see this, it darkens up that orange a little bit, but where you really see it is up around the top and that green and white, which is what I wanted. And the camera, I don't think really does it justice. You can see the little difference here now that they're dry, the variation in that color up at the top. But I want to stuff these as well. And this time I am going in with my plastic shopping bags because these are a lot thicker. And I'm going to use these plastic shopping bags to stuff them. It's a great way to upcycle those never ending accumulating plastic shopping bags they have laying around. But you could use stuffing too if you chose. It took me about 4 bags, I think, to stuff them. Then I'm just going to use the strings that are attached to this little silk ribbon and cinch these shut. Now this is a pretty bright green ribbon, so I'm going to use it to close it, and tie it off in a knot. But we'll take care of those in a minute. So once they're all stuffed and tied off, that's what they look like. And then I'm just going to trim those excess green ribbons right off there. They did not really take the stain hardly at all. They're still really a little too bright for what I'm looking for. Don't really fit in my project, so just snip them right off there. Once again, going in with some Spanish moss, just like with the bunnies, and I'm just going to hot glue a little bit. I'm going to kind of cover that knot there of that silk ribbon that tied these off, because that silk material can sometimes slide a little bit over time. So make sure to get that knot covered in glue too to help it make sure it stays nice and secure for all time. And I'm just going to add my hot glue and my Spanish moss just right around the top of my carrot, right below the little green ruff that sticks up here. I've got my little bee tray here, trying to keep my Spanish moss contained and not make such a huge mess like I normally do with it. I love Spanish moss, but I hate the mess. Now, after I get my Spanish moss on here, I'm just going to take the fabric at the top here, and I just want to give it a little kind of just pull it out, kind of fluff out that ruffle at the top a little bit so that it doesn't get lost in that moss. So here is what all of mine look like once I get all my Spanish moss added. So next I want to go into my little paper tags. These are from Amazon that I get, and my fine tip Sharpie marker. And I'm going to write a couple different sayings on these. I'm going to write farm fresh carrots on one. And then I'm going to write bunny bait on the other. And I'm going to do two of my carrots with the farm fresh carrots tag and two with the bunny bait tag. When I was writing it, I decided to go in and actually write farm fresh carrots 5 cents. So I went back and added that to my first tag. So I want my tags to look nice and old too, so I'm going to give them a nice crumpling up and throw them down. The throwing down's not really part of the distressing process, but hey, why not? If you want to throw them down, throw them down. So I'm going to take my antique wax once they're all nice and crumpled, and I'm just going to go around the edges, a little darker on the edges, a little lighter in the middle, just to give it that nice aged, antiqued kind of look that I love. If you prefer to use distressing ink, hey, use whatever you have on hand. This is just the method I like to use, and I'm just going to hot glue these tags right here underneath that moss. And then I decided I wanted to just distress these carrots a little more, just give them a little bit more of a grungy prim look. So taking a really light amount of my antique wax, I'm just going to dry brush it down around my carrots. If that grungy antique look is not really your thing, just skip this part. It's really a total preference thing. I personally like the primitive look, so I'm going to add a little bit of grunge to mine. Make these look like these carrots really haven't been washed off after they're pulled out of the ground. And here is our final product, our little bunny bait and farm fresh carrots. Pop them in a little dough bowl, pop them in a tiered tray, set them on a shelf. Easy and budget friendly. Oh, and also cute. We can't forget that. For this last DIY, I'm going to take one of these bunny banners from the Dollar Tree. I'm sure you've all seen these. These things are some brightly colored bunnies. We've got some pastels, we've got some neons. They are very bright. But we're going to give this little banner a makeover so that it is really some farmhouse primitive, even maybe a little bit of shabby chic kind of look to it. So I'm going to take and untie that knot that is in this silk string, and I'm going to remove all my bunnies to start off with from the silk ribbon. We're not going to use that one. We're going to restring it with something else. I'm going to take my Waverly white chalk paint. This is the Snow White chalk paint by Waverly. And using a harder bristled brush, I'm going to take my chalk paint and I'm going to start going over these bunnies and really kind of working that paint into this felt. It's not going to be covered completely. You're still going to see some of this color showing through the paint, and that's what we want. We don't want the bunny to be solid white. We just want it to tone down those colors big time. So I'm just using my brush, putting my paint in, and really just kind of going over it and working that paint into that felt. Some sections will be a little darker white than others. Some sections you'll see the color showing through a little more, and be sure to get around those tails, move the tails so that you can get around them. So you can see even with this brighter pink one here, as I work this paint into that felt, the paint itself almost takes on a little bit of a pinkish tone too, where it's just meshing in with that felt. And that's what we want. And I'll do this to both the front and the backs of these bunnies. So, because I like my backs to be finished. If that's not as important to you, then you could totally leave it. The fronts are what you'll see. I just personally like to have the backs of my products finished as well. So you can see here, even with these brighter colors, as I'm going over them, like this neon pink one and the neon green, when you do this white, it really gives them a much more muted, pastel-y kind of tone. So once all of our bunnies are done and dried a little bit here in the white, I'm going to take my Waverly Antique Wax and another harder bristled brush, and I'm going to start going over. This isn't a huge amount of antique wax I have on my brush, and dry brushing over and working that antique wax into that white paint and into that felt. And as you can see, as I keep going over it, it's going to start giving it this nice weathered look. And I haven't added any extra antique wax here at this point. This is all just the same amount I had to start with, and I just keep working it and keep going over with that harder bristle brush into that felt and into the white paint, and it really blends and creates a really, really pretty effect here. So rustic, I think. It's so pretty. So you can see the back. Look at the difference. And I'm just going to keep doing that. And here, I didn't even put any more extra at first. I just kind of started going over that bunny. So you can see just a little bit of the wax goes a long way on these. But I'm just going to keep doing this for all of my different bunnies. And I'm also going to go over the tails here too. Just a little bit on the tails. We want the tails to look a little weathered too. And here is what was originally the neon green one to start with. And you can see when you add the white paint and this wax, you would never know that was originally a really bright neon green. It turns into a really pretty rustic pastel green. So here, once all of my bunnies are done and dry, I'm going to take some of this thinner jute twine, and I'm going to take my little yarn needle here, string it through, and I'm going to restring my bunnies onto this twine instead of using the ribbon. So I tried to lay out my colors kind of in what looked pleasing to me in order of my bunnies, kind of staggered. There's kind of more pinks, different colored pinks. I kind of staggered those in between. And I'm going to go through the bottom first and then back to the top when I string these. So go in through the back and across the top so it looks like a stitch in the top. And then just keep right on stringing these bunnies right on your twine until they're all on there. Now on the ends of my twine, I'm going to make a couple slip knots. If you're not sure how to do that, just cross your twine over, stick your fingers from the bottom up, grab the main section of twine, not the tail, and pull it through your loop. Easy peasy. Now to finish off our little bunnies, I wanted to just give them a little bit of embellishment. So I'm going to go back in with that twine, that thinner twine, and I'm just going to tie some little small shoestring bows, and I'm going to leave the tails of these a little bit longer. Now, there's a couple ways to do this. One was to add a little bow right here to the neck, like our little bunnies have a bow tied around their neck, or to the ear. And I thought both of these looked really cute. I had a really hard time deciding which I thought looked better on the neck or on the bow. What do you guys think? Which do you like better, on the neck or on there? So I couldn't decide, so I decided to use both. And I just rotated. Did one on the neck, one on the ear, one on the neck, one on the ear. Just used a little dab of hot glue and glued those right down. They cute. You would never know some of these were that incredibly bright neon color to start with. And here is our finished little bunny banner hung up. I think this turned out so sweet, and it really was easy to make, really budget friendly, super cute. I have one strung up on my mantle in my living room, and it really is such a fun, easy, budget friendly project. So that's it for today's DIYs. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button and hit that subscribe if you haven't already so you can join me again. Don't forget to follow me on social media. Leave me a comment, let me know which of today's was your favorites, and or just to say hi. And until next time, happy crafting. God bless.